Hello, my name is Patrick Tanke, and today we are going to be talking about the vulnerability assessment of our two hidden systems on our virtual machine. So first, our executive summary. We conducted a security assessment of our hidden Linux server using Greenbone Vulnerability Manager and the Nmap service. And through this, I discovered 12 high vulnerabilities, 6 medium vulnerabilities, and 4 low security vulnerabilities on my Linux server. To mitigate these threats, the report will end up recommending a series of corrective measures, and prompt implementation of these recommendations is critical to significantly reducing the server's attack surface and improving its resilience against modern cyber threats. In conclusion, the system is currently at a high risk and requires urgent remediation. Proactive hardening and regular vulnerability management practices will be necessary to maintain a secure operating environment moving forward. So for the technical summary, I primarily used Nmap for surface level network reconnaissance and Greenbone Vulnerability Manager for an in-depth vulnerability scanning. Nmap helped me identify the IP address that I was looking for inside the virtual machine, and then I used this IP to create target scans in Greenbone, and I ran scans on these IPs. The scanner used its database of vulnerability tests to assess open ports, detection protocols, and specific issues, and it gave me a output of known vulnerabilities on the server, specific recommendations, and a CVSS score, which I used to prioritize the remediation efforts of this. Our first high finding is a general TCP finding. It is a threat level of 10 on the CVSS scale, which is high, and it involves the operating end-of-life detection. The operating system on the remote host has reached the end of its life and it should not be used anymore. To solve this, we want to identify our current operating system version, do an in-place upgrade or full operating system reinstallation, and we want to back up all of our data to a secure location. Our second high vulnerability finding was a port 512 TCP error. Is also a threat level of CVSS 10. The RexEx service is running, and this is a remote host running on the service. So what we want to do is check if the service is running. From there, we want to disable our service and replace it with OpenSSH. Next threat is on port 3632 involving TCP. It is a threat level of CVSS 9.3, and it is a DisCC vulnerability, and it is prone to remote code execution. So what we want to do is check if the service is running. If it is unnecessary, we want to disable this service, and we want to restrict the firewall to this service to only allow trusted IPs. Next is port 6200, also TCP service. Its threat level is a CVSS score of 9.8, which is high. The VSFTPT service has a compromised source package. It's a backdoor vulnerability. It's prone to this. So what we want to do is we want to check our version. We want to remove our compromised version. And then we want to download the service package from a trusted source. The next threat is a TCP port 8787, is a CVSS vulnerability score, threat score of high, and it is distributed Ruby has multiple RCE vulnerabilities. So systems using distributed Ruby, which was available in Ruby versions 1.6 and later, may allow unauthorized systems to execute distributed commands. So what we want to do is find our Ruby service. We want to deny firewall permissions, and we want to upgrade to a version of Ruby that is more secure. Next, we have port 1099 on the TCP service. It is a threat level score of CVSS 7.5, and the Java RMI server is insecure. It has an insecure default configuration, and is vulnerable. So multiple Java products that implement the RMI server have a known vulnerability that allows unauthenticated remote attackers to execute code. And this is obviously unwanted. So what we want to do is we want to locate the server configuration files using something like Nano. We want to deny our firewall permissions, and then we want to update Java to use the latest patch version. The next threat is port 1524 TCP. It is a threat level of CVSS 10. It is a possible backdoor in Ingress lock. A backdoor is installed on a remote host. So we want to scan for running services on our network, and then when we find this service, we want to isolate it and investigate it. Typically, you want to see what's going on, and then from there you can purge the service from your server. And if needed, you can reinstall the compromised service from a trusted source. The next threat is port 6697 TCP. It is a threat level of CVSS 8.1. It is the Unreal IRCD. It has a authentication spoofing vulnerability. We want to check the version. Then we want to upgrade our service version and restrict access to only trusted IP addresses. The next finding is TCP port 80. It is a threat level of CVSS 10. And TWiki has a crock site scripting and command execution vulnerability. We want to back up the site, update TWiki to the latest version, enable a web application firewall if possible, and then apply secure permissions to the website or service. Our next threat is TCP port 21. It has a CVSS threat level score of 9.8. And VSFDPT has a compromised source package and known backdoor vulnerability. What we want to do is remove this compromised service. And then we want to install the service from a trusted source. And when possible, we want to use SFTP instead of just plain FTP. Our last high threat level finding is going to be port 5432 on the TCP service. It is a threat level of CVSS 9, and it is a PostgreSQL default credential protocol, and it is possible to log into remote PostgreSQL accounts as a user using weak credentials. So what we're going to do is log in and change the password requirements or standard password of PostgreSQL, and then we want to reload our system with these changes in place. So next we're going to look at all of our medium issues in Linux at once. Our first issue is going to be Samba. It is a CVSS score of 6. And Samba is prone to a vulnerability that allows attackers to execute arbitrary shell commands because the software fails to sanitize user-supplied input. Possible steps to fix this would be to update Samba and restrict firewall access. The next threat is going to be a CVSS score of 6.8. It's going to be a TCP service on port 80. And it is another TWiki. TWiki is prone to cross-site request forgery vulnerabilities. And to solve this, we want to implement CSRF protection. Next, we have a TCP port 25, threat level of 5. And it is a mail server on this host, answers to verify and or expin request. This is unwanted, and we just need to open up our postfix configuration files and turn this off. We have TCP port 21. This is going to be a CVSS score of 6.4. It reports if a FTP server allows anonymous logins. We do not want this. So we are going to open our VSFDPT configuration file and disable anonymous login. Next we have a TCP port 22. This is a threat level of 5.3. And the remote SSH server is configured to allow and support weak host key algorithms. what we want to do is use a text editor like Nano, and we want to open up that SSH configuration file and strengthen our host key algorithms. From there, we can restart it and implement these services. And lastly, we have a TCP port 25432. This is a CVSS score of 5.9, and it reports if remote FTP servers allow anonymous logins. And what we want to do is harden our SSL configuration to solve this. Now we're going to look at all of our low issues on Linux. First, we have our general TCP. It's a threat level of 2.6, and our remote host implements TCP timestamps and allows people to compute the uptime. To do this, we want to disable our timestamps, so we want to open our sysctl config file using something like Nano and just disable timestamps. Next, we have a general ICMP CVSS score 2.1. What we want to do is it allows the remote host to respond to ICMP timestamp requests. And to do this, we want to open up our ICMP config file and deny or turn off these timestamp requests. You can also deny firewall access. Next, we have a TCP port 22, a threat level of 2.6, and the remote SSH server is configured to allow and support weak MAC algorithms. To fix this, we want to open up our SSH file and set a strong MAC algorithm. And lastly, we have TCP port 5432. There's a threat level of 3.4, and the host is prone to an information disclosure vulnerability. To do this, we just want to update PostgreSQL and harden any configuration files as needed. Here are screenshots of an Nmap of my Linux server as well as my Windows server. My Greenbone scan will be provided in my D2L submission files, so just look there for those. Here I wanted to talk about the ranking scale that I used. I used the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, which is what was used by Greenbone. It seemed the easiest and made the most sense. So I used their scoring system, which is shown below, which is low, medium, high, and critical. I did not label mine as critical, I just labeled them as high. But this score factors include attack, complexity, privileges, user interaction, scope, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And Greenbone enhances this by factoring in detection, reliability, exploitability, and mitigation when giving us this score. Here are the references I used in my paper. Here's a continued list of the references used in my paper.